Apparently I'm muted. Thanks, Diane. I spent the last week on the land of the Agua Caliente people in Palm Springs, California. I couldn't even say Agua Caliente when I left. My youngest brother, Brendan, who some of you had met a couple of summers ago when he was here doing some filming, leases the land that his home is on from the Agua Caliente. Currently, 50% of the homes in Palm Springs are on Agua Caliente land. Land lease, remember learning about it? Anyway, Brendan invited my two sisters and myself to escape for a girls' week at Rancho Palomo. That's what he calls his home in Palm Springs. My cousin from Ohio was also invited, but she ended up canceling because her daughter, Jenny, who just turned 40 this week, had been diagnosed with breast cancer and had an appointment with the surgeon. Anyway, so the core of our message today really is one of care. When we accompany and care for all that we encounter, we love, just like Jesus. A few points. Number one, for decades, when most of us heard the expression, the Good Shepherd, we knew the shepherd was male and Jesus. It's true. What if Jesus's message to us today, though, is broader than I, Jesus, am the Good Shepherd? Without even thinking about sheep, I invite each of you to consider who and how you love, accompany, and care for others. Point two, for decades, the focus of Vocation Sunday has been to pray for an increase in male priestly vocations. I consciously chose to include the second reading that Mary Wishart proclaimed today. Incidentally, it's one that you never hear in the normal lectionary cycle on a Sunday. And of the 27 people whose names Mary pronounced very well, wouldn't you say? 9 are women. How could that have been in the early church? So I think back to, I think it was Henry Nouwen who said, my deepest vocation is to witness to the glimpses of God. So today, I'd ask you to think about vocation in a more holistic sense, in its broader context, and pray that all people find their calling, what the deepest desire of their hearts really is. And now, point 3. Let's break open how intimately nature, when we slow down and observe it, reveals the sacred. Sometimes our appreciation of the natural world is heightened when we see it from a different perspective. As Michelle read in our first reading, the dust of the earth. Well, I had the dust of the desert under my fingernails, between my toes. Like it just, I feel like I can't get it off me, but that's okay. It was worth it. But in addition, living here in Philadelphia, mountains are not part of our landscape. Yet in Palm Springs, everywhere we turned, the vista included bright blue skies, warm breezes, lush green palm trees, and the San Jacinto Mountains rising dominating the backdrop, kind of like a supersized painted set for a play. It kind of looked like the mountain rose right out of the parking lot. So one day we took the aerial tramway, which brings you up to about, I think, an elevation of 8,600 feet up the mountain. There was snow on the ground. It's 90 on the ground when we get onto the tram, and then there's snow at the top. It was just astounding. Another day we traveled up toward Joshua Tree National Park and Pioneer Town, the high desert. Again, a different view, but breathtaking equally. Yet, the natural marvel that awed me was discovered much closer to home. In the bushes that line my brother Brendan's pool in his backyard, we discovered a hummingbird's nest with 2 miniature white eggs, each the size of a coffee bean. Quick tutorial for anyone less familiar with hummingbirds. They're the smallest mature bird, 3 to 5 inches in length, incredibly agile. They have superior visual acuity. In fact, they can see color better than most humans. They are noted for having long, narrow beaks and feeding on flower nectar and sugar water. They fly at 35 miles per hour, or 34. Their humming sound is actually generated by beating their wings 12 to 80 times a second. That's a lot of beating, right? So imagine the wear and tear on their wing joints, right? I wonder, a hummingbird with arthritis, have you ever seen it? No. They take 150 breaths a minute, can hover in midair, and they're the only bird that can fly backwards. Gestation is 15 to 18 days. And once hatched, the chicks leave the nest within 18 to 28 days. I was tempted to stay and watch that process. However, I couldn't be here if I did that. So I'm here and I'm happy to be here. Turns out a hummingbird nest is one of the great and rarest wonders in nature. They're so tiny. They're perfect, often camouflaged. Has anyone ever seen one? Anyone on Zoom? Okay. Polly's seen one. Great. They're white, kind of downy soft, cone-shaped, about the size of a walnut, less than 2 inches from top to bottom, and about 1.5 inches across. They're composed of spider webbing and twigs and lichen. And it's said that hummingbirds symbolize joy, freedom, perseverance, creativity, love, and healing. They encourage us to live in the moment, to be open to change, and to pursue our dreams with optimism. Some believe that seeing a hummingbird signals challenging times are over and healing can begin. Others see them as a sign of hope and good luck. Still others interpret seeing them to mean the spirit of a loved one is near. I found it a really spiritual experience to find the nest and then to watch the nest. But once I knew where the nest was, I found myself curiously drawn to see the hummingbird sitting on the nest. Yet each time I approached that side of the pool, often with my camera, those of you who know me would know that I would do it that way. What would happen was that the mama bird would fly out of this wall of bushes, often she would exit the bushes from a place 12 feet or more away from where the nest was. It was just baffling. Yet yesterday around 10 a.m., before I left for the airport, I was able to video Mama Hummingbird sitting on the nest before flying away. So awed was I by Mama Bird's vigilance in protecting her offspring. It occurred to me we might dub her a current good shepherd. If the mama hummingbird is a metaphor, if that's a better metaphor, that's a better metaphor for you to use, you can adopt it. So I invite you to imagine yourself as a mama hummingbird. And I leave you with 3 questions to reflect on this week. The first, who and how do you nurture, accompany, love into life, and care for? Who and how? The second, what is possible when we extend this approach of care and accompanying to the earth and everything in it? And thirdly, do you believe doing that, living this way, is practicing resurrection? Alleluia! Amen.